Hi, this is odeean. Today I'm having a look at the Bandai Tamashii Nations S.H.MonsterArts Destroyah Evolution set, based on how these characters appeared in the 1995 movie Burning Godzilla vs. Destroyer. Is that what it's called? I can't remember. The box looks a little bit incongruous with my other S.H.MonsterArts, just because it doesn't have this window pane like the rest, which is a little bit disappointing. Makes it the odd man out on display. Looking around, pretty standard stuff for S.H.MonsterArts. Some nice photos at the back, bunch of text. Let's have a look at what's inside. Laid out here, I have everything that comes in the box. Notably absent is any kind of stand, and considering this guy is a fixed pose flight mode, I think that a stand would have really been nice. And it's a bit annoying, there is not even an attachment point to plug a stand in. Just a tiny little hole underneath would have been very, very useful to use existing stands. So that is a bit of a mark against this set. Apart from that, it does look pretty nice. You can see there's an extra head here. So this head just gives us the ability to display one of these components of Destroyer with his, I don't know what you'll call that, his proboscis sticking out like a big mosquito. I don't know. That can go on just here. So we just pop the head off, and you can see that there's a double ball joint in there, much like the balls on the big Destroyer figure. We can just pop on this new head. A little bit tricky. I think that's... no, that's not done it. One thing about this set is that it is a very sharp set. So you can see these spikes underneath. They are all quite sharp, especially on this little guy. These fixed pose spikes underneath here are like little needles that will poke right into you if you grab a hold of it. So if you're planning on playing with this, you're going to get hurt. So here's one of the aggregate crabs. This is the most articulated one, and he's got that bit sticking on the end here. There is tons of articulation on this one, but all limited in weird ways. So you can see that every little joint does actually function, and I mean, it is by no means a low articulation figure. Compared to some MonsterArts, this probably even has more. But the problem is that it doesn't really do anything. Like if you see this claw here, it's got this wiggle backwards and forwards and rotation, and the pincer can go up and down as well, but the net result of all that is nothing, because it's not got a wide enough range to actually be put into a useful position. Again, this front leg here, it's got a full range in the, what would you call it, the elbow there. It can rotate, and it's got up and down and back and front, side to side, but again, the net result is nothing, because it can't go forward any more than that. So I want it to go forward, and it doesn't. So it always has this precarious balance where you think it's going to rock over like that. The detailing itself is up to the same standard that a lot of other MonsterArts are. If I can just focus in on the face, you'll see he's got a recognizable, well sculpted face, but the eyes are orange. Now, I'm not against orange eyes. In fact, I think I like bright colors that stand out like that for the eyes. But on the Destroyer set itself, the eyes are black virtually. So to have the difference between the two figures, I find a little bit annoying, and I would have preferred it if they just finalized on one particular color for all the eyes, because this guy's eyes are meant to end up as the Destroyer eyes ultimately, I guess. On the underside, we have all of these tiny little feet, which are all pointy and articulated. But again, complaining about the articulation is it doesn't really end up anywhere. And if you try to move, that illustrates it exactly. If you try to move these little things more than a little bit, they come off their balls, and the more they come off, the looser they get until they won't stay on anymore. So this front one of mine in particular just keeps falling off all the time. But the other ones do to some degree as well. So a little bit wasted having that articulation there. The tail can be posed, and there's actually a little bit of assembly. You've got to put the tail on when you get it out of the box. So once the tail is popped on its ball, it does stay on decently, but it can move around. Not too many joints. How many joints? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 segments in the tail, so pretty impressive for such a tiny figure. And I do mean tiny. The top of the head crest there comes up to about 7.5 centimeters or 3 inches. These bits definitely can raise it up to maybe 5 inches if they stand upright, but I don't think that's how we're going to measure the height of a figure. This beak part here sticks out about 2 inches, you can see, so that gives you an idea of how small this really is. In the set we do get a smaller version of this crab. Now, to my eyes it looks almost exactly the same. There's just a tiny bit of difference in the placement of some of these pieces on the back, but I'm guessing by the similarity that they are meant to be just different sizes of the same part. When I bought the set I had thought that they were going to be different versions, but they do actually look to be exactly the same. So on the underside of this guy you can see that he's got those spiky parts just like what are under the first one, except these are fixed and they're pretty sharp, as I mentioned earlier. The legs are fixed. Well, the front 2 legs are fixed. The middle one has this rotation and the back one is fixed. So virtually all fixed. The face is done pretty well considering how tiny it is, and these spines up here, these are like needles that will poke into your fingers. Be very cautious of those. We have rotation on these pincers or whatever you want to call it that stick out, and we have a tail that disassembles but is not articulated. And again, this comes in the box as a separate piece that you have to plug on. Finally, we get the flying form. Looking at his eyes, you'll notice that they are getting darker. Now, I'm not sure if that darkness is intentional or it's just how the materials of the figure ended up pushing them, but differences in eye color, still something that's just bothering me a bit. The tail has a good degree of articulation, mainly up in this high section. The end is just one rod. These fins, they have multiple joints in there. This wing can move around. There's no joint in this section. It's mainly just a bowl at the chest here. The neck has loads of little segments, much more probably than what was necessary. There's mixed material here with this see-through section of plastic. That's very pointy as well. And the chin is on a little bowl joint. The face is quite a good sculpt, but I think that the color choices make it lack a little bit of definition. The teeth are painted individually quite well. There's not much bleed through. It's nice for the size. And the size is 16 centimeters from the tip of the tail to the front of the nose. So that's in inches, about 6 inches long. When I put them here in front of Destroyah, you can see how small the figures actually are. And I'm pretty sure that these are not in accurate scale, and given that a lot of these probably join together to form Destroyah, and the first time we saw this small crab guy coming out of one of those labs in the movie, a human being, I recall, was maybe up to the midsection here. These cannot be in any way to scale with this figure. A human being compared to Destroyah should be just at the point of his toenail down there, not all the way up to his knee. So given that they couldn't get accurate scale, I would have been happier if they had gone for just bigger figures. It would have been more satisfying on the shelf, and they could have made it better to look at if they had just made these bigger and tossed scale right out the window. They do look very pretty together though. I'll give them that. Everything fits in very nicely, very nice and spiky, real family group shot there. If I was more into the character, I think I would buy a couple of these sets just so that you can have a bunch of aggregates forming him. But Destroyer is not my favourite character, and this set is far from my favourite set, so it's pretty easy to not do that. Very pointy. My final thoughts on this set. I think that Destroyah Evolution set is a pretty easy pass. The figures are too small to be truly satisfying. They fold to pieces a little bit too easily, and the definition, the character in the faces is kind of obscured by the amount of detail they're trying to cram into such a small space. So if I had to do over again, I would not buy this set. That's not to say they're terrible figures, or that some people won't love them, but it's just not for me. Another thing that makes it an easy thing to not recommend is that the price is really quite high. So I think by the time I got these shipped, I spent almost $100 getting Evolution, and there are many things that I would have been happier with that cost $100. So in that context, yeah, really easy to give up not getting this. At the time I ordered this set, I had thought they were really going to be a bit bigger. Previously I had got the Baby Godzilla, which I was really happy with. It was about $40, which was a great price, and he was so cute, and the figure was just so great that it made it easy for me to just jump on board with this. I didn't give it a second thought even. So seeing how small they actually were, just kind of, I wasn't happy. I should have expected it, because the combined plastic mass of all these guys is substantially more than that Baby Godzilla, but I guess I just wasn't thinking straight. So that's my review for S.H.MonsterArts Destroyah Evolution set from Bandai. I'm Odeean, and thanks for watching.